I don't know what stops them really from doing it. If he really becomes available to where the point the Browns are taking offers.
The main thing I think it represents is, and this is kind of where we are. Last year was the transition year for the Bills, and they still have some work to do on the cap. Good morning, Jeremy and Joe. But shouldn't it just be all in all the time now? Shouldn't this be a 4-year period, 3 to 4 year period of the remaining years of Josh Allen's physical prime? Mm-hmm. I don't want to predict Allen won't be a super freak athlete at 31, but there's just reason to think that maybe you have 4 years like this.
This is his age 29 season coming up.
Yeah, so
4 years from now at his age 30, yeah, I mean, I don't think it's unrealistic at all to expect at 33 it's going to be harder for him to jump over people. I'm not saying he still couldn't do it, but you never know, right? Like he's maybe the greatest athlete at the position ever, like for his size especially.
Yep.
Ross Tucker's called him that, and you don't have a lot of precedent for it. Cam Newton broke down. He also, though, had like a car accident that kind of helped carry that along.
I mean, I'm thinking about Mahomes for this, just because Mahomes has had a series of injuries, and his sack avoidance, which used to be elite, went down quite a bit this year. I don't know what that's related to.
Yeah.
But with Allen, we all agree, right? No one's sitting here saying trust the process right now. At least I feel like you shouldn't be.
No, let's go.
You should be all hands on deck, all in, all the way. Mortgage the future is a phrase that gets used a lot in spots like this. And, of course, the Bills should be – I mean, should they be with where the Rams were, which is bleep them picks? What's the argument against it? You might find some good players in the first round. You might bolster a defense. You're going to get picks anyway. You're going to – whatever. The Garrett idea makes a lot of sense, even at a big price, even at a lot of compensation given up for it. It makes a ton of sense. And you might not want a 29-year-old Myles Garrett. You might want a 26-year-old Myles Garrett. Well, you can't have that. Nobody can. The Browns had that. Yeah. And you've got Allen. It really is time to strike. It's you get me at my most fired up about this. It's not time to experiment with an offense that can do it without talent. It's time to go. This is an offseason where it's go, go, go. I had somebody send me a couple different threads of rookie wide receivers yesterday, and I think the offense is about one really good receiver away. But I find myself getting sheepish at sitting here and banging the drum for receiver again because they seem to take so much pride in doing offense without them, which I still don't think is exactly a great idea. They've got a great line. They've got really good backs. Their tight ends exist.
They
exist.
That's kind of how it is right now. Yeah, for all that.
So I'm hoping for a big offseason where it's clear. Oh yeah, they pushed right back in. They were 3 points away. I kind of want to think of all the things that Bean said. If you would say, I would take down 3 minutes to play with Josh Allen every time. Okay, that means you're darn close. If you're that close. That is a push-in moment. Mm-hmm. Chips in the table. Spend what it takes. I'm not going to be too geeked about a quiet offseason where there are just cagey signings and we're all talking ourselves into why this defensive tackle that played 2 years as a backup in L.A. with the Chargers is going to be a big difference maker. I don't want to do that. I want to go big.
Even if we've kind of admitted, like, they could do quiet offseason, cagey picks, and still win 13 games the way we completely expect them to.
I fully expect them to. But it's not going to be about winning 13 anymore. It's about winning 4.
It's about
4 in the postseason, maybe 3 if they get a bye.
It's about, and not just even about the Chiefs, like Chiefs, Ravens, Bengals. Like those teams, it's not automatic you'll get back to the conference championship game. I mean, look how close the margin of error was against the Ravens the week before. You got to get back there, too. You can say, I'll take being down 3 to Mahomes in the AFC Championship game against the Chiefs every time, but you got to keep going just to make sure you're even getting back to that spot in the first place, and then to do better at all, because they've beaten you 4 times. So, yeah, like all the context of where they are, Allen's age is actually really good to mention. Like I didn't realize this was his age 29 season coming up. Like, are Bills fans going to be like, are going to have a moment the day he turns 30 if they haven't won yet? And they go, he's 30. We got to get going here. He's 30.
Yeah.
Like, what the heck? Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to see them push all the way in. And I also have faith that they are going to do something like that. I don't expect them to have a quiet offseason. I know they're sitting right there on spot check with like the third least cap space at the moment, but they got their maneuvering to do, and Bean is, throw up the sunglasses pick. Like, I feel like I've got a lot of confidence that they're not going to have a quiet offseason. Even if it's not Garrett. Even if it's not Garrett, I still feel like they find their way to something that gets people ready to go, like, all right, this team is different, this team is better, this is the team that can finally topple the Chiefs.
As we get further and further away from it, is anybody else finding, 13 seconds exists in its own universe, this Chiefs loss to be a little bit more annoying? You getting because they got walloped. They
lost by 3.
No, I mean the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Sorry.
Oh, sorry,
yes,
to be clear.
Yeah. The Chiefs got historically bludgeoned in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And it was part Philly, but it was a lot about how they were not adequate. Mm-hmm. And the Bills, we had a first hour say, a first-round pick in 2 seconds and $120 million defensive. You spent a ton on your defensive line and didn't have any horses to do what they did? Like, it's not for lack of trying. It's just, it is a little sticky with me when I think about, I can't believe you got beat by that team that was clearly so beatable.
How is it is that the most common thread of all of these seasons? That it's not like the number one thing, but it feels like every year we've been able to sit here after they've lost a playoff game and say, yeah, their defensive line kind of stunk. Why didn't it look better?
Yeah.
Like the Bengal game, of course, with
which was
3
backups.
The Chiefs just now, after seeing the Eagles steamroll them the next week after the 13 seconds game where they couldn't get near Mahomes except on the first drive where he ran around them. I almost wonder if there is more of like a defensive coaching element to it more than just. Is it possible that these players every time at that position fail in those spots? Or is there something deeper? Is there a deeper reason for that comes to like your scheme being, recognized right away and teams knowing how to stop it? I don't know. Just I get to a lot of defensive coaching quicker than I do for personnel when it comes to their defense over the long haul here.
Make some calls in. Silas in New Jersey. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. How you guys doing?
Good morning.
All right. With the draft coming up, I agree with you with what you're saying. We do need to take a big splash. I don't know necessarily that it needs to be Myles Garrett. I think grabbing a Max Crosby for the package that everybody keeps talking about for a Myles Garrett, which would be 2 first-round picks and potentially a early day 4, early day 3, maybe late day 2 pick, would be bigger than anything the Raiders are going to get for him. They still need a quarterback. This is not a great quarterback draft. I think if you get ahead of it, Bean gets ahead of it, that's somebody they could look at. And then you attack the draft, and I don't think you need a difference maker at defensive tackle. That's what Ed Oliver's supposed to be. You just need somebody that's going to make sure he doesn't get double teamed all the time. So find a guy that's 320 pounds, 6'4" bigger, that's athletic with long arms, that's going to win if he consistently gets single covered against some of these more elite teams. The other thing a lot of people are not talking about is cornerback. Kaya Elam's terrible. And the guys behind him, to Corey Couch, Jamarcus Ingram, cool stories and all, but yeah, we probably need to go and grab a couple of guys in the draft as well to go and play boundary corner. I like the kid Dorian Strong out of Virginia Tech. There's some other guys, Mello Dotson from Kansas. There are guys that can play the zone system and not get completely embarrassed and de-pantsed in man coverage. So I mean, those are the areas for me. And then if we're talking running back, Dylan Sampson out of Tennessee, 5'11", 190. He's supposed to run low 4.3s. He is a house call if you miss a tackle, even more so than James Cook. I don't know about how patient he is. I know he can't block either, so we're not losing anything there. And he comes from a spread offense. So thank you guys for what you guys do. We're covering the Buffalo Bills and bringing out good content. And I'm going to continue to make Ravens fans cry on Twitter. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks, Silas. You started to get into the secondary there. I do think the secondary is in for a very large overhaul. Very big. On how many new faces there might be.
Could their corner room be like just Benford and Ingram coming back?
Yeah.
And Johnson.
And as starters,
So three new corners?
Rapp probably starts. Bishop, I wouldn't be convinced that he starts. Hamlin will not start, right?
Hamlin's probably gone.
Yeah, the secondary is just going to be a different group. And
would you over under though 1.5 different starters in the secondary?
Over.
You would say over because I would say under.
I mean, Douglas is one.
And
there's no other new starter.
Not in the secondary.
I think there will.
That comes down to then if you think Bishop is starting or not.
Yeah,
because I think he is.
I think they'll go get somebody. I think they'll spend money. I think they'll go they'll really attack it. I mean, if you want PFF grades, the Bills' safeties were bad. And listen, this kind of gets to the point about all in. It's whether it's Cole Bishop or Keon Coleman. If you want to say they believe in their growth process, that's great. If that happens, that's great. You can't count on that. You are in Josh Allen's year 29 season. It is time to go get it. And it is too much, in my opinion, too much of a gamble to say, we think Keon and Cole will be ready for this. Because if they're not, now it's the trade deadline, and I'm going to work to try and bolster it again. And the Bills should be, this offseason, locking up as much as they can, any spot that they can, improve any spot. It's a year in transition is a year where you think, let's see how our young guys come along. And if they didn't do as much to, convince you they can do the job, then absolutely sign somebody in front of them. Sign somebody ahead of Cole Bishop. He doesn't have to play for you. I'm not convinced he can play that spot. He could be a run-supporting third safety sometimes if they want to play that three-safety system. But right now, I don't know. I wouldn't have a ton of faith in that. I definitely don't think they should just rely on Keon Coleman to be the number 2 receiver that they want. He should think of it this way. Think of how slowly they brought Gabe Davis along. Davis was down the depth chart for 2 seasons.
Yep.
And then in the 3rd season, they decided it's time to lean on him the rest of the way. And that was probably a mistake for 2 more years. Coleman, they're going to just turn it over to him in year 2 when he did less than Davis. I just wouldn't do it. I would be not. I'm not burying him, but making sure that if he's out there, it's because he's beating out somebody good rather than just watching Mac Hollins out-snap him because Hollins is a nice surprise.
Bishop, though, I feel like they might just think, I think there's evidence of this, isn't there, that they are very good at developing defensive backs.
Yes.
They're very good at that. And I don't believe that they're going to never start a second-round pick. He was okay when he got in there at the end of the year. He was not good at the beginning. But there was stories about him growing as the season went on when he had to play when Hamlin was hurt against Detroit and New England and the Jets. I just can't see them punting on that pick. They got to give. They have to give it a shot. If Javon Holland wanted to come here and his agent made it clear he would want to come here, then I don't want to say no to that because maybe there's a way to find a role for Bishop that isn't just your starting safety. But what is safety? Safety in the league is generally more a position that is replaceable. Is not one that I usually have to go all out investing in. That's not really how the Bills have operated because of Hyden Poyer, right? They've had 2 elite guys almost the entire time they've been here. But I kind of want to reset that position into no, just plug two guys in. If I've got Myles Garrett and my defensive line is great, and I've got a great corner in Christian Benford and a great nickel corner, and I got a great linebacker, like I don't need I don't need an amazing safety. Just give me two guys.
No, I think that's the wrong. I just totally disagree. Shouldn't the entire idea be about getting as many great? They should be hunting great.
But yes, they should be hunting great. But I would rather be hunting great at another position where I'm replacing, Dwayne Carter or AJ Epinesa rather than a guy that I'm think we have no idea if he's good or not. Like maybe he is good.
Well, I'm looking at it's funny if you
Bishop.
Bishop. If you dig into the history of the Bills' second-round picks under Bean,
yeah,
I mean it's pretty rough. It is.
I mean, Cook is pretty good.
Cook is good, but of all the positions where you would think you can get a guy that can play, a second-round running back can probably play. You might be better off using that somewhere else.
Right.
But second-round picks under Bean, first off, we tack Deion Dawkins on Whaley, right? He's the GM at that time.
Yeah. McDermott at least.
McDermott, sure.
McDermott.
But Tre'Davious White, Bean's not here. Since Bean showed up, their second-round picks are Cody Ford, AJ Epinesa, Boogie Basham, James Cook, Osiris Torrance, Bishop, and Coleman. Torrance is good. He plays.
Sure. Yep. He's starting guard.
After that, how much Cook is a great running back, but again, you can get running backs a lot of places. Is that not a spot where it feels like, man, why are they just falling short? Why is the roster a little bit of a mess? Why are they signing free agents? It's because their second round has not really returned what it probably should.
That's fair. That's fair.
And that's to say nothing of the first round. The first and second round picks, you might make this an anti-trade for Myles Garrett point. It's really time to get something out of them. And this year's draft class, here's another point to be made about this. This year's draft class, how much did this last draft class affect them on the field this year, especially the playoffs? Here's a point about Garrett. Here's a point about what you should be picking. Your draft class this year, of course, Coleman, Bishop, Dwayne Carter, Ray Davis, Cedric Van Pran Granger, Eddie Ulofoshio, Javon Solomon, Tylen Grable, Daquan Hardy, Travis Clayton.
Mm-hmm.
What contribution was there in the AFC Championship game from those players? Nothing.
Not a single
Nothing.
thing. Yeah, no.
And that doesn't mean, the draft class is worthless or anything. These players might turn into bedrock pieces going forward. But I'm in a mindset to say I need to affect my franchise immediately. Right now. I need immediate returns. And if this draft class grows and starts to do that, that's great. But the 2025 offseason has to be an offseason about immediate returns. Fair?
Yes.
Not even just the draft, but free agency. Free agency this year was what? Mac Hollins, Curtis Samuel.
Mm-hmm.
Who else? Free agency. It was quiet.
Did they do anything?
Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
Right, yeah.
Chase Claypool.
Oh, Chase Claypool. Remember that? Remember the Chase Claypool hype spring that we had last year? Did they bring in a lineman? Who was the defensive lineman they brought in?
Austin Johnson.
I was going to say, I think Casey Toohill is the guy they signed on the day of free agency.
Yeah,
there wasn't much.
If you look at last year's offseason, Mac Hollins and a little bit of Keon Coleman and very little else in terms of what you did in 2024 that affected 2024. And the 2025 offseason needs to be the 2025 offseason will affect the 2025 season in a very big way. That's one thing the Eagles did. Right? The Eagles went out and had themselves an amazing offseason in the draft, in free agency, and got great returns on it. And that's what I'm hoping the Bills are obviously trying to do, and hopefully they can effectively do it.